a broadcasting milestone. Across the Fence is turning 60.
Vermonters still do things differently. They think a little differently, and they still are deeply interested in what happens within their state. They want to know what's going on here because they're proud of what's going on here, and they want to be up to date with what's going on in Vermont. And one of the best ways to keep abreast of what's going on is to turn on Across the Fence. It helps to make you more of a Vermonter.
Good afternoon, I'm Judy Simpson. We're glad you're with us for a very special occasion. It's the 60th birthday of Across the Fence. With your support and interest and the commitment of UVM Extension and WCAX, this is the longest running program of its kind in the country. Since our debut, there have now been nearly 16,000 episodes. One of the only remaining tangible signs from the early years of Across the Fence is this memorandum. It was written by the founder of WCAX-TV, Stuart Martin. It authorized the launch of Across the Fence beginning February 14, 1955. For nearly 30 years, the program would air live, and so there's virtually no archive. All that remains are a few photographs, like this one, showing a farmer bringing a horse into the TV studio, marching right past the office secretary. There are some additional photos and slides that help trace the history of Across the Fence, but the real story of Across the Fence can be found in the people, beginning with the Martin family, which brought television to Vermont.
The reason there's an Across the Fence is it was part of the original agreement with the university, from whom we lease land on Mount Mansfield. And in the original lease agreement was the provision that we would run a program, which turned out to be Across the Fence. That provision has long since fallen out of the lease. So it continues because the university and we agree that this is a worthwhile endeavor. Well, there's something to be said for stability in an ever-changing world, and in a way, Across the Fence represents stability. And it is Vermont, and this is how we do things in Vermont.
Across the Fence is an educational program. It's a wonderful partnership with WCAX TV and the Martin family.
That you can plant.
The Across the Fence show provides the opportunity to take the most important topics, whether it be about our air, about our water, about our society, about our health, that we at the University of Vermont and within UVM Extension work on every day, and it provides us that opportunity to share the results of that work with the public in a very transparent way about the issues that we address in our educational and research areas.
Connecting the arms to the motor and then the head.
Those educational programs are based on the best research and the best work that can be done by individuals at the University of Vermont, but also in other universities across the country. Because although we'll highlight Vermont, we will bring research-based knowledge from anywhere in the country and share it with our citizens. Across the Fence has gotten older. It's 1 year younger than I am, and I know I've changed a lot in 60 years. If I look at the history, it used to be live only, and now we're digital, so that you can watch Across the Fence every day on YouTube or on the website. Now we have Facebook, and you get the posts about how wonderful the show was, but also gives Across the Fence and Extension the opportunity to interact with individuals that have questions on a real-time basis. The one thing that you have not seen change in Across the Fence is the commitment of the people over that entire history. And that commitment of the people to bring high-quality shows is what has created, I think, the longest-lasting community show in TV history. And that's an amazing accomplishment.
Hi, I'm Patrick Leahy. And this month, Across the Fence celebrates 60 years of community programming. 60 years and counting. That's an amazing run, going on the air just 6 months after the first TV program was ever broadcast here in Vermont. Now, I'm the longest serving member of the U.S. Senate, I can't point to 60 years, but I can point to a great appreciation for the value of seniority. But seniority matters most when that experience is put to work to address real-life challenges. Across the Fence does just that. Tackles issues of practical interest to we Vermonters, and delivers valuable information week after week after week. Just look at some of the recent episodes. Big issues like agricultural water quality, or how one cares for an Alzheimer's patient. But it also touches on smaller, useful topics too, like recommending gardening books, something my wife Marcel and I have looked at, and prepping our annual Christmas tree. I look to Across the Fence as a source of information from my time as a prosecutor in Vermont to my work now in the United States Senate. It gives a voice to the local dairy farmer, but it's grounded in our history and our Vermont lifestyle. It spotlights our caregivers and our educators and our community organizations here in Vermont. Across the Fence is the longest running locally produced program in the nation for just those reasons. It speaks to the spirit of who we are as Vermonters. It's been a reliable source of information for 3 generations, coming from familiar faces like my old friend Tony Adams and now Judy Simpson. So congratulations to Across the Fence, to the University of Vermont Extension Service, and to WCAX. Vermont looks forward to 60 more years.
For 6 decades, Across the Fence has been a fixture in Vermont homes, bringing practical information to people throughout our state. The program has been a reliable source of information for 3 generations of Vermonters and counting. I would like to congratulate UVM Extension and WCAX for developing Across the Fence, which is credited with being the nation's longest-running locally produced program. Since 1955, there have been more than 15,000 Across the Fence programs, each unique, but always centered on keeping Vermonters informed of issues, events, research and policy, as well as on the people and places throughout our region. Across the Fence routinely addresses concerns of Vermont communities, families, businesses, and farmers. The show is unique to Vermont and demonstrates UVM Extension's commitment to education. Across the Fence showcases the hard work, the dedication, and the hands-on learning experiences of thousands of Vermont youth in 4-H, to community service organizations like the United Way, the Boys and Girls Clubs, and our schools by highlighting music and art, theater, and technology groups. Once again, I congratulate Across the Fence for reaching this milestone. And I also want to thank Tony Adams, Judy Simpson, Lynn Jarvis, Will Michael for all of their extraordinary efforts in making this program something that all of us are proud of.
The Extension Service of the University of Vermont presents your daily
Across the Fence has become part of what Vermont is. It's like Tunbridge Fair or Bennington Battle Day. It's become ingrained in what we are. And why did that happen? Well, I have maybe a unique perspective on it. 60 years ago, I was a teenager, and my father was working in a store in Woodstock, and he came home for lunch every day. He had a lunch hour. And at that time, most people lived within walking distance of their workplace. And we had recently gotten a television set, so we were all fascinated by it. So he'd walk in the house, and if it wasn't on, he'd turn it on, and lo and behold, what was on the television? Across the Fence. And it became a habit. And it became a habit, I suspect, in thousands and thousands and thousands of Vermont households. It was something you expected to do and improved your lunch hour. As the years went by, I began to watch. Particularly, I became fascinated by the history programs. Will and Jane Curtis, whom I came to know, and they eventually invited me to do a couple of shows with them. And then when I first started coming out with Civil War books around the little early 90s, Tony Adams, who was a Civil War buff, invited me again and again to be on Across the Fence.
Why was it so important?
Really, I think after Gettysburg, Lee has just about had it.
People everywhere were coming up to me, all over Vermont or New Hampshire or New York State, and they'd say, "Hey, aren't you the guy we saw?" I was amazed what your viewership was. It's been an enjoyable experience, and of course, it helps to sell books. But it is something it's been a joy to be part of, because it has become a Vermont essential. And really, if I've got something that I want to say about Vermont history, and I want Vermonters to hear it, there's no better way than to go on Across the Fence.
Congratulations to Across the Fence. 60 years of covering small town Vermont, big city Vermont, bringing us together, keeping us together. What is tremendous about this is it shows how Vermont is a small community. It gives a window into the lives of all of us who live here, with all the professions, all of the activities that we have. And you know, if you look over the tapes of these for 60 years, you get a portrait of Vermont, its virtues, its challenges, and its people. And what a tribute to WCAX and the extension to have this 60-year legacy, where that's longer than The Simpsons. It's longer than Face the Nation. So this is a tremendous jewel that we all as Vermonters enjoy. So congratulations, and may you have another successful 60 years.
Hello, I'm Lynn Jarvis, and today on Across the Fence we continue.
I would like viewers to know that I've been associated with Across the Fence for 46 years now. I began my television career in 1969 as a producer-director for Vermont Public Television, and one of my jobs was directing Consumer Hotline that was produced by UVM Extension's Karen Christensen. When she retired in 1975, I was hired as producer of Across the Fence in 27 very happy and creative years that are still going strong, thanks to Will Michael, who asked me to be a contributing editor, for which I am most grateful.
A viewer recipe, it's an apple orange raisin cake.
This lets viewers contact me with their letters, because they often send nice little notes when they write for the recipes, and you really get to know them, how the garden is growing, and more serious things like a stay in the hospital or they've lost a husband or wife. And through the years, you really do build up a personal relationship with them, which is something that I enjoy very much.
Karen Christensen ran it before Lynn Jarvis. She had seen me do interviews on sports and news and liked the way I did interviews and made people feel at ease. So she came to me and asked me if I'd do it. And I said, I'd love to do it, but I said, Red Martin has a rule that we can't pick up other duties at the station. And she said, let me handle that. She went to see Red, she explained it. Red puffed on his cigar, blew some smoke at her, and said, as long as it doesn't interfere with his sports work, it's okay. And the rest is history. I did it, for 35, 40 years? Across the Fence is unique because it's different every day. We'll have a politician in one day, we'll have an author in one day, we'll have 4-H youngsters in, we'll have agronomists, whatever people came up with. I enjoyed it because it was different every day. I look forward to doing it that way, you know.
Nice to have you with us once again for another edition of Across the Fence.
I tried to make people feel that we were talking one-on-one with your chair here and my chair there, without a camera.
Nice to have you with us.
Thank you, Tony.
Across the Fence means Vermont. It is uniquely Vermont, and I think people know that, and they accept it as you have a guy from Shoreham up, or you got a guy from Brattleboro up who's unique, who's done something that's of interest to people out there. The interest with people is the important thing with Across the Fence, I think. That's why it's lasted for 60 years. Otherwise, it would have been gone.
Like a lot of you, I grew up with Across the Fence, but compared to Tony and Lynn, I've been directly involved with Across the Fence for a relatively short period of time. I've been the program producer for the past 14 years. The best part of my job is I learn something new every day from our guests. But the success of Across the Fence really belongs to you. You've allowed us into your homes for 60 years. And as I say often, we know you have choices, and we thank you for choosing us. Now, Judy, there is one other person that I want to give some credit and acknowledgement to here before we go, and that's you. We've been together on Across the Fence for 10 years, a couple of decades before that together in the newsroom. I don't think anything sums up what I want to say any better than this. This is your Distinguished Service Award you received in December from the Vermont Association of Broadcasters. And what this award means is that you've stood out in the broadcasting profession for many years. It's not only well-deserved, but it represents the very best of what you do for Across the Fence, and we all at Across the Fence want to thank you. Happy 60th birthday.
Thank you so much. I can't believe it's been 10 years. And you and Tony are right. The best part of this job is the fact that we do learn something new every day, and we get the chance to learn these new things with every program, just like all of you watching at home. And I'm really honored to be part of this rich TV tradition here in Vermont, the state I love. I want to take a moment to thank you, our viewers, for tuning in each day to see what we're up to, and to send us your feedback or a recipe or a question for our Bird Notes show. I hope you feel that Across the Fence is your program. My goal as host is to ask the kinds of questions that you want answers to, and I plan to keep doing that for years to come. So for all of us here today, thanks for watching, and we'll see you again next time on Across the Fence.